It was the last weekend of summer, and everyone in our town gathered at the old lake for the farewell party. I didn't want to go, but my friends kept insisting that I needed one last night of freedom before school started. The air smelled of burnt wood from bonfires scattered along the shore. Kids were laughing, splashing in the water, and playing music too loudly. Everything seemed normal, but I kept staring at the dark line of trees at the edge of the forest. Something about them felt heavier than usual. I tried to shake off the unease, but the feeling followed me. Because of it, I stayed sober while everyone else drank. My friend Emma teased me for being paranoid, but I told her someone needed to drive us home. That decision kept me alert when I noticed something strange. No crickets were chirping, no frogs croaking. The forest was silent, like it was holding its breath. Emma convinced me to walk with her along the shore. The sand was cold, damp from the lake, but that wasn't what bothered me. About 20 feet ahead, near where the trees began, I saw footprints leading out of the water. At first, I thought they belonged to a swimmer, but they were too deep, like whoever made them was dragging something heavy. I pointed them out, but Emma laughed it off, saying it was probably from kids playing a prank. We followed the tracks anyway, but that was a mistake. Because of it, we ended up in the tree line where the bonfire lights no longer reached. The air turned cooler, and the smell of wet soil wrapped around us. I told Emma we should go back, but she rolled her eyes and kept walking. Then we heard it, a low scraping sound, like metal dragging against stone. I froze, but Emma whispered, "It's probably nothing." She tried to sound brave, but her voice cracked. The sound grew louder, closer, until it was right behind us. I turned quickly, shining my phone's flashlight. The beam caught something moving between the trees, a flash of pale skin and a hunched shape that darted out of sight. Emma screamed, and we ran. But that wasn't the end of it. Because of the panic, she tripped over a root, twisting her ankle badly. She begged me not to leave her. I tried to pull her up, but the dragging sound returned, this time faster, more eager, like whatever was stalking us could smell her pain. We hobbled back toward the bonfires, but the trees seemed endless. My phone buzzed with low battery, and when the light flickered, I saw it again. The shape was crouched on all fours, its head tilted unnaturally, watching us without blinking. It didn't chase. It waited, as if it knew we were too slow to escape. Emma sobbed, clinging to me. I shouted for help, but the music by the lake drowned out my voice. My throat ached from screaming, yet no one came. The silence of the forest swallowed every sound except Emma's uneven breaths and that horrible dragging. When we finally broke through the tree line, the bonfires were gone. The entire shoreline was empty, as if the party had never happened. My chest tightened with terror. The music, the laughter, the lights, everything had vanished. But that wasn't the worst part. Because of it, we were trapped in a place that looked like the same lake, the same trees, yet completely abandoned. The footprints in the sand were fresh again, leading straight into the woods. Emma whispered that we should follow them back, but I couldn't move, my body locked in fear. Behind us, the dragging stopped. For a moment, the night was perfectly still. Then I felt hot breath against the back of my neck, and Emma's hand slipped from mine. Summer had ended, but something else had just begun. The end of summer always felt bittersweet, but that year, it was different. Our group of friends had promised one last camping trip before school started again. The tradition was simple. We'd hike to the old quarry, build a fire, and stay up until sunrise. Everyone looked forward to it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this time, something was off. The hike was longer than usual because the path had grown over with weeds and brambles. Because of it, we reached the quarry later than expected, just as the sun dipped below the trees. The air cooled quickly, carrying with it a smell of rust and stagnant water from the pit below. We set up camp near the edge, laughing to hide the unease, but the darkness pressed in faster than it should have. Jake started the fire while Mia unpacked snacks. The flames rose high, lighting our circle, but beyond that glow, the quarry looked endless, like a hole swallowing the earth. We told stories, the kind meant to scare each other, but in the middle of one, I noticed something strange. Across the quarry, a second fire flickered, faint but steady. At first, I thought it was another group of campers. I even felt relieved, but the fire never wavered, never sparked or smoked. It was just there, glowing unnaturally in one fixed spot. Mia wanted to check it out, but Jake refused. We argued, voices rising, until finally I agreed to walk closer just to prove it was nothing. Because of that choice, everything unraveled. The path down into the quarry was steep and rocky. My flashlight barely cut through the dark, and the air felt heavier with every step. About halfway down, I realized something terrifying. The fire wasn't across the quarry, it was a reflection. Our campfire's reflection, dancing in the still, black water at the bottom. I froze, confused. If it was just a reflection, why did it flicker before we even lit our fire? My stomach twisted. I scrambled back up, but when I returned, the group was silent, staring at the opposite side again. Now there really was another fire, brighter than ours, taller and moving closer. Jake swore it was a trick of the eyes, but Mia pointed out shapes in the flames, dark silhouettes, like people shifting inside the light. I told everyone to pack up and leave, but they hesitated. That hesitation cost us. Because of it, the second fire crept closer, yet we never saw anyone carrying it. The silhouettes grew clearer, stretching long against the quarry wall, as if walking toward us. Mia screamed that she saw them waving. I wanted to run, but Jake insisted they might be real people needing help. He stepped forward, and that's when the ground cracked beneath him. The quarry edge had weakened over the years, and Jake tumbled down. His scream echoed, cut off by a sickening thud. We rushed to the edge, shining our lights, but all we saw was black water rippling as if swallowing him whole. We tried calling his name, but the only response was the second fire flaring brighter, now directly across from us. The silhouettes inside it no longer looked human. They twisted, limbs bending wrong, faces too long. Mia collapsed in tears, begging me to leave. We grabbed our bags, but the trail back had changed. The trees loomed closer, the path narrower. My flashlight flickered, and when it came back, I saw fresh footprints in the dirt, Jake's boots. They led ahead of us, even though he had fallen. Mia clutched my arm, whispering that maybe he was alive. But I knew better. Because of those footprints, she insisted we follow, even as the sound of crackling flames echoed behind us without a single spark in sight. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. The air turned hot, like we were walking into fire itself. My lungs burned, my skin prickled, and Mia's grip loosened. When I turned to her, her face was lit orange, as though she were standing inside the flames. I reached for her, but the footprints ended suddenly, and then so did she. Summer had ended, but what we awakened in that quarry had no season. It was waiting for us all along. Every year, when summer ended, the county fair packed up and left town. The Ferris wheel was taken apart, the booths hauled away, and the laughter disappeared with the warm nights. But that year, a storm delayed the trucks, so for one strange week, the fairground stood abandoned at the edge of town. My friends dared me to go there on the last night of August. I didn't want to, but I hated being called a coward. Because of it, I agreed to sneak in after dark, even though the place looked like a skeleton without its people. The wind carried scraps of paper across the cracked asphalt. Rides stood still, frozen mid-motion, their paint peeling. The smell of fried food and cotton candy was gone, replaced by rust and damp metal. I told myself it was harmless, just empty rides and trash, but the silence was too heavy, like the fair itself was holding its breath. I decided to start at the game booths. Their prizes still dangled above the counters, sun-bleached teddy bears with one eye missing. I reached for one to prove how fake the whole dare was, but the bear was damp, almost sticky, as if someone had just handled it. I dropped it fast. Then I heard it, the faint tune of the carousel. At first, I thought it was the wind whistling through metal bars. But the melody grew clearer, the same cheerful notes I remembered from childhood. My stomach twisted. The carousel had no power. I wanted to leave, but the sound pulled me deeper. Because of it, I found myself standing in front of the ride. Its horses were still, their painted eyes cracked and empty, yet the music played, echoing from somewhere inside. I told myself I'd circle once and then go. But as I walked, I noticed something wrong. Every horse's head had turned slightly, just enough that together, they followed me. My throat tightened. I sped up, but the music grew louder, and the horses' painted teeth seemed sharper in the dim light. I stumbled back, and that's when I saw the Ferris wheel. It was moving, slowly, creaking against the night sky, its empty seats swinging as though weight pressed them down. My chest hammered. No power meant no movement. I shouted that I was done, that the dare was over, but the words sounded small. Because of them, something shifted above me. One of the seats stopped, hanging directly overhead. For a moment, I swore I saw legs dangling, human legs. I ran. My sneakers slapped the asphalt as I headed for the exit gate, but the path twisted, leading me past the funhouse instead. The mirrors inside glimmered, reflecting my pale face. Against my better judgment, I glanced in. That was my mistake. Because of it, I saw not one reflection, but dozens, each version of me standing in slightly different poses. One had eyes too dark, another smiled when I wasn't, another whispered silently. I stumbled back in horror, but the reflections pressed against the glass as if trying to break free. I bolted out, gasping for air. The music of the carousel blended with the creak of the Ferris wheel until the whole fairground sang one horrible, broken song. Every ride moved now, slow and unsteady, as though the summer crowd had returned. I sprinted for the exit again, and finally, the gate appeared. Relief filled me. But when I pushed through, the other side wasn't town. It was the fairground again. Same cracked asphalt, same booths, same dead teddy bears swaying in the wind. The rides kept turning, endless, without people to enjoy them. The summer had ended, but the fair wasn't finished with me, and I knew, with cold certainty, that it never would be.